Hello and welcome back to another Hesse Bros pod. We are 4 weeks into the NFL season. Welcome to week 5 of the NFL season. Lions with a big Monday night win. Chiefs with a damaging win on Sunday, but a win nonetheless against a division opponent, and a lot of other crazy games mixed in between. Where do you want to start, L Dog? All right, let me introduce you. Luke Hesse, Brent Hesse. We're back. Hesse Bros.
Heck yeah, it was a good week. Probably one of the more exciting things I saw. Obviously, Jared Goff went perfect in that Monday night game. Absolutely amazing. And he caught his first touchdown pass with the Lions. What a great night for Detroit.
Not only
But
was Jared Goff perfect, the whole passing game was perfect because Amon-Ra was 1 for 1. So there you go, 19 for 19 in the passing game.
heck yeah. And quick shout out here to Jaden Daniels. Those boys are cooking in Washington. I told you not to sell your ticket, Brent, and I think they're going to win this division. They definitely look like they have one of the strongest offenses in the league. As long as the defense keeps it together, this team is scary.
I was close to having to dig into the trash, call the dumpster, and tell them, like, come back, come back. There's something valuable in there. But no, I still got it in my pocket. I'm holding on to Washington. They're looking good. Yeah, when it comes to the Chiefs, man, just sucks how many injuries. Rasheed Rice, we still don't know the exact verdict, but it's possibly, potentially. At one point, it was likely, presumably an ACL. So sucks, obviously, when Pacheco's already out. Hollywood hasn't played a snap this year. And it's just terrible that it was Mahomes. I mean, it was like the worst play of Mahomes' career. Not only do you throw an interception, but then you hurt your best player all in one play. That was tough. But the Chiefs do what they always do, and they battle back. When they're down 10 points, it's actually like, okay, the game's starting, and the Chiefs are still favored because Mahomes wins more than he loses when he's down 10 points in a game, and he's the only quarterback in NFL history with that stat by far. So the Chiefs just do what they do, come from behind. It wasn't pretty, but a win is a win, and especially against a division rival. 4-0, only us and the Vikings left can say that. So can't be mad, but concerned about the injuries piling up for all the skill guys.
The Chiefs just keep pulling out these victories whenever it seems like they're finally going to lose a game this year, and they just keep getting these dubs. But I did want to talk to you, Brent. Some other news coming in here. Devontae Adams has requested a trade. Do you want him on the Chiefs? And do you think it will happen? And if you don't think it will happen, where do you see him ended up?
I don't think it's going to happen to Kansas City. I would be awesome. I honestly would rather have Tyreek Hill. The Dolphins look like they're out of this. Their season is pretty much toast. They look like the worst team in the league if you're getting blown out at home to the Titans. But Devontae, I don't think the Chiefs will be able to make that work. They could make it work, but it would just be too much of a detriment going forward. It seems like the Jets and the Saints are the two places he wants to go. He just likes to play with quarterbacks he's played with in the past. He doesn't really care about anything else besides that, apparently. Jets, somehow I feel like it's going to be the Jets. I just think it will be.
I do think that is a good possibility, but I think if the Commanders can make a move for him, that would be absolutely incredible. They have the cap space, a young quarterback that's showing that if
Yeah,
you can get that locked in receiver alongside Terry McLaurin already in that offense that's humming, get him into a system that's already doing so well, I think that would be great for Adams. And he can finally play with a new quarterback that he might actually be good with. So that would be
that makes
pretty.
a lot of sense. I hadn't thought about that one. I like that. I like that. Yeah. Well, other game I would definitely want to talk about Bills and Ravens because I thought those were the two still top teams in the AFC with respect to the Texans, and it was proven out. Ravens are legit. Should have even had them higher up in my 12 pack last week, but they are a good team, and they've got another big one this week against Cincinnati. But it was all Baltimore. The king stays king. King Henry, what a goat.
That game was basically over after he hit that rush for 70 yards. The Bills had no answer to that. And yeah, that was about the end of that game. And it does make you turn on a little bit of the fraud watch for the Bills. They're always so good in September. They've had three really easy matchups and were able to take care of all those pretty handily. People saying maybe they're the best team. At this point, it's looking like they have a lot to improve on both sides of the ball to be vying for the AFC Championship against most likely the Ravens and Chiefs.
Yeah, well, they've got another tough one this week against the Texans. Some big time matchups this week in the AFC. just to recap the other matchups that we picked, I was heavy on Bucks underdog against the Eagles. That one hit for me pretty easily. I said on the pod, now it kind of sucks, that this is how it worked out. But I said on the pod I was taking Browns underdogs against Raiders. Browns ended up going off as favorites, so I didn't take that one. I woke up Sunday morning and it was a beautiful sunny day in Kansas City. But you know where it was raining heavy? In New York City. And you know who doesn't even practice in the rain? Aaron Rodgers. So I saw that and I said, give me Broncos plus 310. Both my money line bets ended up hitting as I had to pivot away from Browns, who were favored. Took the Broncos and the Bucks and went 2 for 2 with my money line underdog bets last weekend.
Very impressive, B Hess. And also, my Colts betting against them did not work. The under didn't work either in the Colts Steelers game because as soon as Flacco gets in there, he's just airing it out.
Mm-hmm.
And once he got in, I did not think the under had any chance. Richardson goes down. I think he'll be back soon. I don't think it's that serious of an injury, but the Colts are starting to look pretty solid, and the Steelers might be on fraud watch too here. The back end of their secondary didn't look as good as it had in the past, and they might only have a defensive line to show for that entire team. So who knows?
Steelers have another big one. That's another big matchup this week. Cowboys and Steelers. That is a Sunday night game. Well, do we want to go ahead and start talking about this upcoming week?
Let's get into it. Starting with Thursday night, Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. What are your thoughts on this one, Brent?
Well, our brother Q Dog was sad we didn't talk much about the Falcons Saints game. That was a big NFC South matchup. This is just as big, if not a bigger one, after Young Ho Koo snuck through for the win. And that was actually a little sickening for me. I lost a 4-team spread parlay by Falcons minus 2.5. They ended up winning by 2. I had Bengals minus 5.5. I had Buccaneers money line, and then I also had Denver plus 7.5 and Atlanta minus 2.5. So that one cost me by 1 point, but the Falcons did get the win. So well done. And now they're playing the Buccaneers, who also are coming off a win. And this is going to be a good matchup. These were the top 2 teams in the NFC South last year. I expect it to be the same way with the Saints. Definitely still a factor going in. This game's in Atlanta, correct?
It is.
So that 3 weeks in a row in Atlanta, they lost to the Chiefs coming down to the wire, beat the Saints down the wire. I think that at home, the Falcons get the dub. Bijan didn't look that great, but Kirk is just slowly developing, slowly getting back to where he wants to be. And I think they continue to build chemistry with these receivers, with Drake Meet Me at the London, Kyle Pitts, even guys like Ray and Darnell Mooney are getting after it. And Tyler runs hard. So I'll take the Falcons in a close one against the Bucks.
I'm still worried about this Falcons offense. I think the Bucks get it done. The Falcons scored 2 touchdowns last week, not with their offense, one special teams, one off of a pick. And so at this point, it's hard to say that they're going to be able to beat the Bucks, who have definitely shown that they are a great team. They had one awful week against the Broncos. Besides that, they've looked really good this year. And I like the Bake Show this week. I think he's going to be able to throw on that Falcons defense. And Bucky Irving's looking like a good player in that backfield. Now they have a little tandem between him and Rashad White, and that team's going to be tough to stop. Definitely going to be a fun Thursday night matchup. Should be a close one, but I think the Bucks take it down.
I think it is going to be a great matchup. I'm probably just more intrigued to watch it than to actually bet anything on it. I do have that Falcons future parlay with the Chiefs and Lions as the Hesse Bros special, all to win their divisions. So I'm just going to be rooting for the Falcons, but going to watch it and just taking a good game. So that'll be a fun one. And then we've got Sunday, a lot of good games starting in London with Jets Vikings. Aaron Rodgers, does it rain in London? I think it's rainy there. Uh-oh. Could be problematic for the boys in green again.
Absolutely. I don't understand this line. The Vikings only have to give up 2.5 points. They've just their last 3 weeks, they've beaten 3 of the best teams in the league with the Texans, the Packers, and the 49ers. And now they get the Jets, who are floundering on offense. Aaron Rodgers, you don't know what you're going to get out of him every week. And if the Vikings defense with Brian Flores does what they've done all year, and Sam Darnold doesn't turn into a pumpkin, I don't see how they don't easily win this game by at least a field goal, probably a touchdown. I love the Vikings here, and especially Jordan Addison being back is such a huge weapon for them in this offense to complement Justin Jefferson. I'm scared of these Vikings. They're a good team, and they're definitely going to be contending at the top of the NFC this year.
Yeah, if it's less than a field goal, sign me up for sure. Vikings are 3-0 outright as underdogs this year. They've covered the spread in all 4 games. So give me the Vikings, especially against the Jets that have looked good once this season, and that was against the Patriots. So yeah, that's definitely one I'll be leaning Vikings heavy on. What are the other big Sunday matchups before we get to the primetime games and the Chiefs and the Lions matchups?
Well, my favorite matchup is the Colts going to Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been keeping my DraftKings account afloat right now. All you have to do is bet against them. They lose every game. I knew they
They
would be
did
a bad
cover though,
team.
barely by 1 yard.
See,
As
that's why I
Jaguars were
didn't bet.
lateraling around trying to do the old pitchy play, the lateral fest, and they got down tackled at the 1 yard line. Almost got a safety that would have been backdoor cover for Texans fans.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually did stay away from the Texans in that one just because it was a weird line and the Texans hadn't been playing great. But getting the Colts right now at plus money, plus 124 money line is insane. The Jaguars are not a good team. I mean, they're just going to keep losing until they fire Doug Peterson. He's not a good coach, and Trevor Lawrence is playing absolutely atrocious. I feel like the Colts, whether they have Flacco or Richardson this week, are going to have enough on offense to be able to take down the Jags. And it's my favorite bet. I mean, all you have to do is bet against them. And in that Texans game, whenever the Texans went down, it was so easy. I just fired as much as I could on the Texans money line, knowing they were going to come back and beat the trash Jags. Just that easy.
That was a smart live one. Do we know which way they're leaning, whether it's going to be Richardson healthy or it's going to be Flacco?
I think it's probably more likely Flacco, but Richardson's still questionable right now.
Interesting. Well, I think I'll be on the Jaguars in that one. They're at home. They look better against the Texans. And the Colts still have not impressed me this season. They got ahead on the Steelers and then almost found a way to blow that one. They gave that game away almost a couple times. So that's one where we'll be deferring. I don't know if I'll take Jaguars because they are favorites. I don't know if I want to lay any points with them, but I do think they'll win. One game that I am going to be not worried to lay some points with is the Bills and Texans. Now, this is just a 1 point spread, but Texans at home, underdogs against the Bills. Bills not looking good. Texans, granted, they also don't look that good. They barely beat the Jaguars at home. They were trailing in the fourth quarter, and that's coming after they got smoked by the Vikings and have won close games against the Colts and the Bears. So yeah, Texans haven't looked as good as people may have thought in the offseason. Bills obviously are coming off their worst performance in like several years in the regular season. That's the first time they've lost by more than a touchdown in the regular season in multiple seasons. But I just think the Texans are the better team. Stephon Diggs revenge game. We'll see what the Bills can do. I'm just worried about all the Bills injuries kind of piling up. The defense was holding together just because McDermott's so good, but got exposed against the Ravens. And I'll take the Texans as a slight home underdog.
Absolutely. This should be a high scoring one. And the key to the Texans offense right now, I think, is going to be getting Joe Mixon back this week. Ever since he went out for the past 2 weeks, their offense has not looked the same, obviously. They got killed by the Vikings. And then last week, they were floundering against the Jaguars before they came back. CJ Stroud needs a run game to be able to get the ball consistently to these weapons that he has. And I think this is going to be the perfect matchup for him to get Mixon back, get a little bit of the run game going. And I do like the Texans in this one as well.
Okay,
The Bills just need to show me a little bit more right now.
before we move off of Bills, because I forgot Lions are on bye this week, so we won't be talking about Lions anymore. One last question: which team had the better trick play this weekend, Bills or Lions?
Well, it was quite the trick play for the Bills. You know, it's always pretty smart to just leave your quarterback out on the outside with no protection, try to get him hurt. And so it's really a tough one to tell. But no, I'm on Ross St. Brown. He probably could be the quarterback for the Bills, and they might be better. I mean, he's an absolute dog. You see
That
that
was
little
crazy. That
dive
was
in
his
there?
pass ever in college or professionally. He wasn't
or
even
high school.
looked. I mean, he laid that in the bread basket. I mean, there was nice little loft on that one. I mean, it just went up and down. Jared Goff over the shoulder. Yeah. Meanwhile, Josh Allen, right, lining him up as a wide receiver, just flipping it out to him. He was just getting absolutely bull rushed by a million people. So let me just try to give it a heave. That was a fun one for me. I was actually live drive betting that one, like I did the Lions Rams game, and I had turnover on the drive, so that one hyped me up as I hit a plus 475 bet with a live drive turnover that play. So I agree, Lions with the better trick play. Okay, Luke, give us another matchup this week that you're going to be into, as we've already talked about Bills, Texans, and we talked about Colts, Jags.
You already brought it up earlier, Brent. Those Ravens going to Cincinnati. I like the Ravens here, -2.5. I know Lamar on the road as a favorite doesn't have the greatest record, but I just think that they've shown me enough. And with Derrick Henry running the ball the way he is right now, the Bengals defense just doesn't really have the juice. They have a bunch of pedestrian players, and Hendrickson on the outside, he's like their only really good player, like solid player. So I just think that the Ravens have too much for the Bengals to handle here. It probably will be a pretty close game, but Lamar's going to get it done in the division and establish this is still their AFC North. They're going to take the crown this year.
Yeah, I think that I'll take the Ravens for sure in this game. This might be the shootout of the week. It might be the overplay. I hit the over in Washington, Arizona last week because we were talking about those are my two teams. It was my Brent Hesse sleeper bowl, so I didn't know who to pick. I just bet the over. And one team certainly delivered. The other team did just enough to cover the over. This game will probably be another one. I'll just bet the over because Ravens, Bengals, both offenses are really good. Both defenses have question marks. And for the Bengals, it's more of question marks. It's gaping holes. Even Andy Dalton was able to red rifle them up and down the field last week and make that a ball game. And Lamar has a great record against Burrow in his career. So, yes, I'm definitely leaning heavy on Ravens in that one. And I expect a shootout. Well, I talked about one underdog team I like. There's one other one that I like. And this one is a little bit more out on a limb. But I'm taking the New York football Giants on the road at Seattle. Seattle coming off a short week. They're only on 6 days of rest. Meanwhile, New York played Thursday. They had the little mini bye week. And just kind of like the Colts, nobody's exactly sure if it's going to be Daniel Jones or if it's going to be the former Seahawk himself, Drew Lock, that starts at quarterback this week, as there's questions if Jones is going to keep the starting job. Either way, though, I just think the Seahawks, while their offense looked great against the Lions, don't get me wrong, Geno was dicing them up. Their defense is injured, and they didn't force an incompletion all game. I know that Goff was balling out, don't get me wrong, but if you went 19 for 19 defensively of giving up completed passes, means you've got some problems there. And I think that eventually this will be a good Seahawks defense, but they're really beat up right now. And I don't know if it's going to be healthy enough on a short week. I'll take a big spread. It's one of the biggest underdogs of the week. Giants on the road almost beat the Cowboys last week. I think they looked their best. They have now. Malik Neighbors, is he going to play? Probably not. Hopefully he does. That's going to be painful if not, because that's their offense. But I like the points in that one, and I like an underdog outright.
We saw it last week against the Lions. The Seahawks don't have a pass rush at all. And if you give a quarterback like Daniel Jones complete time, don't make him freak out at all. He can hit players, especially when he has one of the best receivers in the league with Malik Neighbors. I do like that pick. I don't think I'm gonna bet it probably just because Geno Smith has been playing really good this year, and with his all his weapons, it's gonna be tough to see the Giants actually winning this game. I think the spread at 6.5 is probably just about right. But you can always take your flyer on the Giants if you feel like that's how it's going to go down.
I'll take it. It's worth the shot in the dark. Any other games you want to talk about before we get to the primetime matchups?
Of course, got to talk about the Commanders again at
Oh,
home versus the Browns. I still like them. Their offense is so good. The Browns are going to be a tough defense to have to go up against, and I'm just excited to see what Jaden Daniels has to do here. But I think that they're going to be able to cover this spread -3.5.
is
They just
Jaden
love putting
Daniels
up points.
Is Jaden Daniels one of the top two favorites for MVP right now?
Him and Sam Darnold, I guess. I
He's
mean,
in it
that's
right now.
crazy.
That would be the competition. Jaden Daniels has the best completion percentage through 4 weeks in NFL history, not just for a rookie. In NFL history, he's completing 82% of his passes, absolutely balling out. I'm excited to see where you have Washington in your 12 pack tonight, as Luke will be ranking his top 10 current teams in the NFL. I gave my 12 pick. I had the 12 pack last week, so excited to see where Luke has the Commanders in his 12 pack this week. But yeah, that's another game where Browns, they look just absolutely atrocious. So I'll be on Commanders to win that one. I do want to ask you about one other game though, and that's a division rival for the Lions versus a team they've already played this season. Packers Rams is an interesting one to me. Green Bay's 3-point favorites on the road in LA. They just got Jordan Love back. He looked a little rusty early, but played great in the second half as they were playing catch up ball. The Rams just beat up, lost to the Bears last week, but 2 weeks ago they were able to shock the 49ers. What did you take away on that matchup?
Yeah, and that's my last really big slam of the weekend is going to be the Green Bay Packers over the Rams. The Rams are completely beat up, and Jordan Love just airs it out. Like he does get so many yards, and the Rams are not going to be able to keep up with it. The Packers have a good enough defense to where Stafford and his hodgepodge of weapons is not going to be able to do enough. And this guy Dontavian Wicks for the Packers is starting to have a breakout season.
Yeah.
Him and Jaden Reed as a
Oh,
little combo, that's two good receivers, two young, fast receivers, and the Rams are not going to be able to keep up with it. They have a really bad secondary, and the Packers are going to be able to take this one with ease. And the NFC North is just going to keep rising to the top.
Dontavian Wicks was the top waiver priority in our fantasy league this week. If he's on your waiver wire, definitely snag Wicks. He's going to be nice going forward. Well, that brings us to Sunday and Monday night. Sunday night, Cowboys at Steelers. Steelers 2.5-point favorites. Monday night, we'll be here in Arrowhead. Chiefs, Saints. What do you like?
I do think that the Steelers can get it done here. I think that's just going to be a great matchup. It'll be interesting to see what the Cowboys are able to do here. Are they really just complete frauds, or are they going to actually be able to pull out a win here? I feel like it's two pretty evenly matched teams, and it should be an interesting showdown for sure. But I do think the Steelers are going to get this done, and I think they should stick with Fields. I don't know if there really is a quarterback controversy. I feel like you have to go with Fields until it just completely falls apart at this point. Maybe he loses two more games in a row or something like that. But I feel like he has the locker room, and he's doing everything they need to win games at this point.
Yeah, he had that one really bad play where he fumbled the ball against the Colts. But outside of that, I felt like he did a good job trying to bring them back in that game where they were trailing throughout. This is a weird one for me because it's two teams I still don't know if I've completely figured out. A lot of the teams I feel like I've got a really good pulse of. I know where to attack. These two still have some question marks for me. Hopefully, this week will show that out. But it's just inverse, two completely inverse teams where the Packers might have the worst defense in football, especially if Micah Parsons doesn't play. DeMarcus Lawrence isn't going to play, and their defense is going to struggle. On the other side, though, the Steelers have one of the best defenses in football, and the Cowboys last year were the best offense in football. Now they haven't had much of a run game this year, but their offense can click. So it's kind of like the weaknesses are on one side of the ball when Steelers have the ball versus the strengths when Dallas has the ball. So it's going to be a really intriguing matchup. But I think at home I'll take the Steelers. This will probably be another one that unless I feel like I need to, based on how the weekend's gone, might just be a sit back and relax and enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless we need to absolutely get all of our money back, I don't think it's gonna be a huge betting game, but should be a good watch for sure.
A
And then
one that
moving
won't
on,
that one that won't just be enjoy, it'll be stress out. Will be Chiefs versus Saints Monday night. Wow. Kansas City, they've won again. They still haven't won by more than like 4 points this season. I guess they beat the Falcons by 5. Well, they did just beat the Chargers by 7. But they just no, they didn't win by 7, did they? They
17-10, yeah.
Yes, they did win by 7. For some reason, I was thinking the spread was 6.5, but it was 7.5, so they didn't cover either way. But they just only can win by the narrowest of margins in the most dramatic fashions in the ugliest ways. Mahomes, 5 interceptions now in the season. That's second most in the NFL. Well, tied for third most behind only Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. Those are the only two quarterbacks with more interceptions than Mahomes so far this season. That's tough. Saints have a pretty good defense. They were played great the first 2 weeks of the season. Then the last two, they've lost against good teams in close games against the Eagles and the Bucks. So nothing to be ashamed of, but clearly showing they're not like a top 5 team, but definitely a capable team. And the Chiefs, just with the way that this offense is going to be bogged down, my boy Carson Steele fumbled on the opening drive. That was tough. Kareem Hunt came in, looked dope. But I mean, it's crazy. He was cut by the the Browns last year. The Chiefs are now rolling out number 1 running back cut by the Browns, number 2 running back cut by the Broncos. On off and the wide receiver rookie guy that went to the Ivy League that nobody wants, cut by the Patriots, cut by the Jets. That's their offense now, and a 34-year-old tight end. So I mean, it is rough without Hollywood, Rasheed, and Pacheco when all the guys that are supposed to be 2 or 3 spots lower on the depth chart are now having to come up with big plays every single week. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I trust the Saints defense to be able to make some plays, but the Chiefs defense has been amazing. Chris Jones was awesome. That was another bet that I hit well, I think I said that even on the pod last week. With both tackles out for the Chargers, I had Chris Jones anytime sack at plus 114. That hit in the first half, and then he had the big sack at the end of the game, 2 sacks last week. And I think the defense are just going to have to rely on them. It's going to have to be a defensive team for the time being until weapons come back or until Mahomes is able to manage with the guys they have and get out of whatever little funk that he's in. So I'll take the Chiefs in a low scoring game. I don't know if I even like them to cover, but 23-19, it's not going to be pretty, but it's going to be exactly what we've seen the first 4 weeks. Why would you think it's going to be anything else besides a Chiefs win in ugly fashion? So that's my prediction, 23-19, ugly game.
I'm in a similar boat with you here, Brent. I always bet against the Chiefs, and it's not helping me out, but I just need to make sure I bet on the Saints spread enough to where I can still sprinkle in some money line and offset those losses because I know the Chiefs are going to win. But you're right, it's probably going to be like 3 or 4 points, and so the spread's probably the move. But
Really easy if you just follow the trend. They've been doing that for multiple years now. Last year I think they had a losing record against the spread, or at least the year before. One of the 2 years when they won the Super Bowl, they had a losing record against the spread. Probably both of them, honestly, but they just win games. So that's the play for the Chiefs.
yeah, I do want to see them lose just because I feel like they shouldn't be undefeated right now. But their record is 4-0,
And it's
and they'll
4-0
probably make
against
it 5.
all good teams. All good teams. I mean, maybe you can say what you want against the with the Bengals that are 1-3, but Falcons, Chargers, Ravens, all good teams, all teams that I think still have a great chance to make the playoffs. Some of those I think have a chance to go deep in the playoffs. And now it's time to talk about some of those teams. As you ready to hit the 12 pack?
Absolutely. Welcome into my first edition of the 12 pack, top 12 teams in the league as of this week. And so, starting off here, number 12, it's going to be the Seattle Seahawks. They had a solid offensive showing, but their defense is all banged up right now. I think that Geno Smith is going to be able to get them into the playoffs and even vie for this division if the 49ers can continue to stumble. But I got them at number 12 right now. Moving on, number 11 is going to be the Green Bay Packers. A lot of people probably had them in the top 10, but I just think that their defense isn't doing enough right now. They're a solid team, but I feel like they have a lot more to prove if they're going to make it up to their Super Bowl expectations that some people had for them earlier in the year. Moving on here, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 10. They have a really solid defense. They were undefeated, but they took that loss to the Colts, a rough loss. But I still really like what they're doing on defense for the most part. TJ Watt's probably the best defensive player in the year, and that's coming or in the league, and that's coming from a Lions
Right.
fan with Aiden Hutchinson. It's probably between them two. But TJ Watt's just done it for so long. You know what you're going to get out of him. And they have such a great defense. You got to trust Tomlin as a coach. And so now moving on here, this is where the Commanders are going to slide in. Now
Nice.
they,
Number
yep,
9.
number 9 for the Commies. Um, I do think that they have a great offense, but it's still a rookie quarterback, and their defense is not very good. I feel like this past week was a lot coming down to what the Cardinals are doing. I don't think their defense is as good as what happened with Kyler Murray. Sometimes he just completely forgets how to play football, and that's just what happens with the Cardinals sometimes. I'm not really taking a whole lot from their defensive performance there. That's why I can't have them too high. I still don't know exactly how good that defense is going to be this year. And then in number 8 is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're
Ooh.
a really good team. Baker Mayfield is slinging that thing, and Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they have the weapons, and I think it has to be them here. Moving on, Houston Texans at number 7. CJ Stroud is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think that now that if he can get a run game with Joe Mixon, he's a nice little MVP pick still. I like him a lot. Throw it in there. He's a great quarterback, and especially with Tank Dell coming back soon, probably the best top 3 receivers on any team. The Texans are going to be here. And then the San Francisco 49ers at 6. San Fran is one of those teams that you know that they're going to be there towards the end of the year. They're dealing with injuries. Debo seems to get hurt every time he plays. Ayuk isn't stepping up yet, but they're still winning games. They're still a good team, and you can't take them out of the top 6. Buffalo Bills at number 5. They did have a terrible performance, but you gotta like what they have. They went up against the number 1 rushing defense in the Ravens, and you know that the Buffalo Bills want to run the ball. That's how they've been so successful recently. And so being able to go up against teams with better matchups, I like the Bills against every other team that I have below them for the most part. I know the Texans this week is going to be interesting, but still, I mean,
They have home
the
field
Bills have
advantage.
a really good team. Texans at home, though, I'll take them.
Yeah. And now your top 4. I think I know who they are, but we'll just have to figure out the order. You got 2 AFC and 2 NFC, the 3 in North Division. So let's figure out the order.
Yep. And coming in at number 4 is one of the 2 4-0 teams, the Minnesota Vikings. They really haven't shown any flaws. They've probably been the best team so far this year, without a doubt, really. Sam Darnold is playing so well, but it's still so new what having him there. And, maybe some teams can figure out what Brian Flores is doing on defense now that they've already had 4 games of tape. A lot of times that's all it takes in the NFL is getting past that first quarter and really seeing what these teams are about now. And I feel like the Vikings don't really have the personnel on defense to back up exactly what they've been doing to start the year, but they still have a great team, and you got to hand it to them. They've been playing really well. Now, moving on to number 3, the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, Lamar Jackson is a great player. It's hard to even say that they're number 3 and that the Lions are ahead of them, but I mean, the Ravens, like with Lamar, it's just tough to beat them, and especially with Derrick Henry. It's going to be a battle. I see it coming down to them and the Chiefs like it should every year. Especially, it's just going to come down to that game. Can Lamar break through in the playoffs? That's what it's all about. We know they're going to be there at the end of the year. They have a running game now with Derrick Henry that's amazing, and their rush defense is really good too. Now, number 1 and number 2, BS.
Lions,
You
Chiefs.
already know who it is.
Number 2 has got to be the Detroit Lions, huh?
The Super Bowl matchup. Got to give it to the Chiefs for now, though.
They're
Chiefs
number
don't
1.
have a loss. Lions are number 2 at the moment. At the moment, it really just comes down to this pass defense. If the Lions can figure out their pass defense, not hold on every single play, I feel like the Lions are going to be able to definitely make a big run to the Super Bowl here, and we'll have the best team in the league. Our offense is better than almost anyone when it's clicking. We all saw that last week. I've been calling for it the past 3 weeks. We just got to get it rolling for a full game. And after seeing what that looks like, I don't see how you can't have the Lions way up in your power rankings. And as long as that defense, those defensive backs can just hold it together, this team is going to make some noise this year. And of course, number one, the Chiefs, two-time Super Bowl champions back to back, and they're trying to make the third. They're undefeated. I don't see how you can put them anywhere else in any power ranking. They just got it right now.
Well, it's always great to hear you praise the Chiefs. If you want to go on a little bit longer right now about them, you can. But I know you're probably a little gassed after reeling off a whole 12 pack there in just a couple minutes, Luke.
Whew.
Nice picks. Well, you had three different teams than I did last week. Obviously, in those games, we had big wins by Washington and Tampa Bay that moved them in. Makes complete sense. And then the Seahawks, I didn't have them in at 3-0 because I said they were basically 0-0. They hadn't played a real game. They actually did look good against the Lions, so I don't hate them at 12, even after they're coming off a double-digit loss. It was one of the more impressive double-digit losses just in terms of a performance I've seen that gives you more confidence than maybe you had going in. So I don't hate any of the inclusions, but I am upset about one team you don't have in. That's a team I had in my 12 pack last week that won against a division opponent, and that was the Falcons against the Saints. Falcons got a narrow win at home, and we kind of already talked about how they had some big plays outside of the offense that helped them win that game. But I still think I would have the Falcons in, and if I have to remove the Seahawks, so be it. That would be my one exchange on the 12 pack, and then it just comes down to moving some teams around. But for the most part, I like this list. Vikings have to be just a little bit higher. I know that you're a Lions guy and Ravens have played. Ravens had one of the most impressive wins of the season on Sunday night when they just dismantled the Bills. But the Vikings have three of the most impressive wins on the season, beating the Packers on the road, beating the Texans, and beating the 49ers. So Vikings for me, they have to be in the top two along with Kansas City. Outside of that, I agree with the top four. I just think that two needs to come up. The four needs to come up to two. The rest of it, no real qualms outside of I would put in Atlanta for Seattle, but that's a close pick, and that's a good 12 pack, Luke. Mighty tasty.
Thank you, B. Hess. And it is close between the Vikings and the Ravens. But if they were to play next week, you're telling me you wouldn't pick the Ravens.
I'm
Like,
not saying
it's
I
just a
wouldn't
better
pick
team.
them, but people have been picking against the Vikings the last 3 weeks, and they win. So if the Vikings and Ravens play, I think the Vikings would win just because somehow they keep winning against everybody. But that is the 12 pack. And so that is basically going to do it for this Hesse Bros episode. We've got an exciting week 5 slate. Chiefs on Monday night, some big games before that, some upsets that I like. Texans at home against the Bills. That's just a minor upset. My major upset is Giants on the road in Seattle against the 12th man. And Luke, I know there's a couple picks that you're really high on this week as well.
Absolutely. The Commanders at home versus the Browns. Gotta love them. Vikings against the Jets across the pond. You already know it's going to be the Vikings in that one. I do like the Colts against the Jags. All you got to do is bet against them. The Ravens are going to be able to take down the Bengals here and cover that spread. And of course, Thursday night, the Bake Show is coming to Atlanta. It's going to be a great game. He's going to get the dub. I just can't think about putting the Falcons in the top 12. Obviously, they're right on the cusp there, but the Seahawks are a better team. The Falcons just don't have the consistency right now. And the Seahawks offense just completely trumps what the Falcons have going on right now.
Well, that is going to be our Hesse Bros episode. Luke, great job on your first 12 pack of the season. It'll be my turn again next week as we get to recap week 5 and look ahead to week 6 this week, though. Go Chiefs, stay undefeated. These guys are going to be balling out Monday night at Arrowhead. And Luke, great talking with you. Signing off for the Hesse Bros pod. We'll see everybody next week.